Today I'm going to show you how I made these smoked ham hocks. Actually, these are mostly ham shanks. The hocks are right above the foot. Shanks come from a little higher up. I'm going to be getting my ham shanks from these three pigs. This is a Hampshire Duroc Yorkshire mix. The black one is a red wattle by Big China Black, and the brown one is an old spotted Gloucestershire red wattle cross. Now that I've got my pigs to work with, I need to remove the shanks from the shoulders and the hams. Probably take more than I need. I don't really need more on the leg part of the picnic ham. Since I'm curing most of my hams, I don't need the thin part at the bottom here. That would all get trimmed and cut off for sausage anyway. Well, now I've got my shanks, I need to make a brine. So to know how much brine I need, and to know how much salt I will need for that brine, I'm going to put my food grade bucket on a scale, put my shanks in there, and I'm going to cover it with water. Now I'm going to take that weight, multiply it by 5%, and that's how much salt I need to add. So I can take my shanks out, and I'm actually going to dump out most of this water and just take a small amount of water and put my 5% kosher salt in, 3% brown sugar I'm using. You could use more, you could use less, kind of up to you. And I'm going to add 0.25%. That's 1/4% of cure number 1. This is an optional ingredient depending on the type of smoker you're going to be using or the amount of time it's going to take you to fully cook your hocks or shanks. If you cook your ham hocks and shanks hot enough that they get to 140 degrees internal in 4 hours, curing salts are optional. If you want to cook them low and slow at like 150 for a long time, get as much smoke on them as possible, then it's going to depend on what kind of smoker you're using. When we cure meat with salts, we're lowering the water activity, and by lowering the water activity, we're reducing the amount of water available for bacteria to grow. This makes it safe for us to dry meats in the danger zone. We dry them between 50 and 60 degrees, but when we're drying them, there's always airflow. It's never anaerobic. The second we create an anaerobic environment, we're creating an environment that's good for bacteria to grow. And the type of bacteria, some of them have neurotoxins. And you can consume those, not know it for a long time, while the neurotoxins are taking an effect on your brain and your body. When we put ground meat into a casing, we're creating an anaerobic environment for that ground meat, even though it's in the same environment as the prosciutto. It has air going around it, but inside that casing is anaerobic. So the same goes for some kinds of smokers. This electric smoker doesn't really have much airflow. This works by putting some chips in here, close it in, and it has just enough air for those small amount of chips to combust. But the heat is all electric. The heat is all coming through these wires. Man, I gotta clean this grease pan, huh? And there's just enough air coming through this to burn those chips. And then there's a small exhaust up here so that the smoke can pass through and not just sit in there and become stale. This is basically an anaerobic condition that we create for our meat. This smoker actually burns wood. This has an intake that pulls air through. That's how it burns the fuel. And then as it pulls it through, it creates a draft through the chimney, which you can moderate. This smoker requires air to work. It creates an airflow. So if you want to smoke your hocks and shanks low and slow at like 150 degrees and you don't want to add nitrites, you need a smoker like this that burns something and actually pulls air through it. If you use a smoker like this and you cook it low and slow and you don't add nitrites, you're definitely gambling. If your meat doesn't get up to 140 in that 4 hours, you are taking a chance. You're taking a risk of creating a dangerous piece of food, and no one wants to serve something dangerous to their friends and family. You can use whatever spices you want to use, but generally pickling spices are common. I'm going to use some peppercorns, some cinnamon stick, allspice, mustard, anise, fennel, some coriander. I love juniper, a little rosemary, and I'll throw in some ginger coins too. Now I'm going to add some ice to cool this down. Once it's cool, I'm going to add back my ham hocks. Once I have my starting weight sitting on the scale, ready to put this in the fridge for at least a week. My shanks have been brining for 11 days, and that's going to be just fine. In fact, it's going to be great. Now I'm going to soak them in some fresh water for an hour or two, just to rinse some of that salt out. It's been about an hour and a half. Now I'm going to put these on a rack, and I'm going to leave them in my refrigerator for solid 24 hours. And that's going to dry them a little bit on their surface so that the smoke sticks better. And I'm finally ready to smoke my ham hocks. I've got my smoker going. I've got it preheated to about 150 degrees. I'm using maple wood for my smoke. It's a local wood to me, and I really like it. I'm going to keep my smoker between 150 and 200 degrees. Probably aim for lower for the first little bit and then raise it up as I go along. That'll give me a smokier end result. These are done, and boy, they look delicious. These are going to elevate so many things like collard greens, any beans. I love them with black-eyed peas. Really any soup, split pea soup. Start a pot of chili off with this stuff. Oh my God. Might not be traditional, but it's really good. Hope you enjoyed this video. Like, subscribe, share, all that stuff. Make sure to put some love into the food you make. Peace.